We're back with another episode of the Good Girls Podcast. I'm SJ, here with my co-host, Kay. And after last week's episode, we were talking a little bit at the very end about chemistry and attraction to other people. Why are we attracted to people? And are we really that attracted to people's physical characteristics, et cetera, et cetera? So we just decided to dive in and have a whole episode about how much of it is those different components. Okay, I wanted to start with the lit review, obviously, to talk what has stuck with you in both romance and smut and smutty romance about people's initial attraction to one another.
Why is blonde always evil? Brown hair seems to be universally the way that all romance books go
Especially for the
lately.
male main character.
Yes.
I would just like the listeners to
Absurdly
note that
tall.
Kay is saying this as a blonde person to a brown-haired person.
Yes, I'm not trying to be anti blonde. Quite the
I
opposite.
mean, I'm just
I'm
really excited
saying,
because I also have darker eyes, and I feel like in country music, it's the other way around, that when he's describing the interest of his love, she is always blonde-haired and blue-eyed, presumably to, like, underscore her whiteness. But you are right about male main characters in
yeah,
romance.
we have the books and they always have black hair. They're always like absurdly tall, which while I think that there is some general propensity for girls to be attracted to guys who are taller than them, I don't necessarily think that's like 6'6" or 6'8". Not, and I'm not trying to be anti-tall here. I'm just saying that like when they describe the guys in the books, they're always like, he was basically an oak tree and he had like
It's so
thighs
he
that
could
were so
have
massive.
the frame to carry his
Big
extraordinarily
dick.
large penis, because if
Yes.
he were normal size, that dick would really just, like, topple him over.
Yes, it would just you're right. They need to make them oak trees so that the penis is there. The jaw is described as cutting ice or
Yes.
yeah, very sharp
Some
jaw.
metaphor for being chiseled.
Yeah, it's really only Emily Henry who has ever described a guy that I can think of. Charlie in Book Lovers is described as being the main character's height and not having particularly muscular arms, but having nice arms.
I feel like Allie Hazelwood has had some characters too.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, well, you would know more than I
No
do.
matter what the character is in an Ellie Hazelwood book, they are huge and ripped, even when it doesn't make sense. Like
I'm thinking of a different author then. Never
yeah.
mind, I retract my earlier statements.
There was like a vegan mountain climber. Okay, have you ever met a mountain climber? They are like skinny guys. When you think of like that
Also,
famous
vegans,
guy.
it's just physically difficult to get the amount of protein that a bodybuilder would need.
Yes, and even those guys are like huge muscular oak trees who somehow also were like football stars or something. It's like she goes
Facts.
illogical because she likes these huge guys. Um and a little bit of broodiness, which isn't necessarily a physical thing, but the face.
Yeah.
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 Very rarely are they, nonstop smiley. But I guess that's different from physical.
So
Sticking
we'll
with where I
revisit
am.
some of our favorite characteristics. We are going to get into, so there's a 1994 research article that I feel like is just the good summary of it that a lot of other things build on, Sprecher et al., that just kind of summarizes there are 3 factors in attraction, and it's desirable personality, physical appearance, and reciprocal liking. And that kind of appears across different cultures, and they did this based on self-reports in different countries. So I feel like that is like a nice basis, and then anything that you get into beyond that does seem like highly subjective. But another interesting one, and this is again another older theory that is a foundational thing that comes into later research. It's called social exchange theory. And it's that we are forming interpersonal relationships doing this continual cost benefit analysis. So your goal is to maximize the benefits from relationships and minimize costs. And so as long as when you're doing this math, you're like consistently feeling like the benefits outweigh the costs, you will stay in that relationship. And at whatever point you decide that it doesn't work, the math is not mathing, then you will exit the relationship.
Yes, I need to do a quick shout out to Nikki Glazer, who might have the best quote ever on this, which is that she has like a short husband, but with a really good looking face. And
I don't
she
think I knew
said,
she was married. Based on her stand-up, I assumed she was single, but
It might be a boyfriend, but it's definitely a very
Her significant
long-term
other.
partnership that would
Yeah.
be referred to as her significant other, and she said that she would otherwise not be able to get a guy with such a hot face, but when you're shopping with short guys, it's like doing, TJ Maxx or Marshalls. You're getting, like, a 50% off deal.
That's what I'm trying to always tell one of my single friends who has, like, very strict height requirements, and I'm like, "Then you're getting guys coasting in that category, the taller guys are just coasting in there based on, like, mediocre personalities, like, maybe not that smart, versus, like, yeah, you're gonna get a lot of bargain deals in the short husbands category." Like, I totally agree with Nikki Glaser on that one, or, like, medium kings. Shout out to the medium kings.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, this is just like the idea is the rewards are like anything good that you get, but that can also include like access to good things such as money and status, or it could just be positive feelings, a greater sense of security, etc. And then costs are negative or undesirable components. So, like financial ones, conflict, danger, potential for pain. So, your particular math in this is shaped by your own culture, society, and past experiences. And in reading about this, I also read about this whole math thing for like deciding if you'd be better off with this person or just being single.
Well, that will change drastically based off of your age, prior relationship history, and all that.
Which again, your math is shaped by all of that for you.
Like, I think if I were widowed, I'd have a pretty high standard for who I'm going to link with in the
Yeah.
future because 'cause I'd kind of feel like I don't need to be linked to anybody. I don't know.
Yeah, my mom is single, and I can tell that the man versus alone, math is very weighted towards, like, "I'm having a great
Yeah,
time,
there is
so
no
you better
need.
bring something, like, amazing to the table." So, I like that we can now bring up, in discussions with our friends about, if they're gonna stay with this guy or not, you can be like, "What's the comparison level of alternatives here?" And sound really
And then it will be
theoretical.
me, and it'll be like, "You're gonna need to break that down for me."
It is basically a complex of saying, man versus bear. So when we're talking about the more personality and sense of compatibility side before we dig into the physical, was this article in the American Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. And it was this idea of how strongly people feel that they're self-essentialist or that they use self-essentialist reasoning, which is the idea that like you have some kind of inner core or soul or essence that defines and shapes who you are. And so basically, in this experiment, they determined that people who rated themselves more highly on questions related to that, of like, I have this core being that determines who I am, they were much more likely to discard a fictional person that they read about based on mismatches in values. And so, if you are a self essentialist person, you would be much more quick to disregard a fictional story about somebody who doesn't agree with you. I kinda, like, think that these people are the article, he was like, "Wow, this makes us really question and think how much we jump to not have relationships with people that we deem as not on par with our values." But I was like, the questions involved were, like, abortion, gun control, animal testing, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know if you should be in a, like, long-term." Sorry, and this article was management sciences, so he's not just talking about romantic relationships, but for, like, romantic relationships, I do feel like you might run into problems if you are, like, that different in values from your person.
Yes, I feel like I keep on taking you off track, but in big pop culture news, Margaret Qualley, who is Andy McDonald's daughter,
Mhm. Oh.
apparently got a divorce from Jack Antonoff,
Oh, I do know him.
and they said that somebody said, "You can have a lot of different types of mismatch, but you can't have an aura mismatch," and there was an aura mismatch here. Like, Margaret Qualley was clearly a way cooler, posher
Yes.
person than Jack Antonoff, who is
I
I'm
think he's cool.
he's an impressive music nerd. If you looked at any picture, she's, like, ravishing off to the
That's
side with
true.
her
He has a
pose.
very, like, music nerdy aura.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, I do think that we should do more critical
Vibe
research
matching.
into vibe mismatches and discover the true boundaries of what that means.
Yes, my
Um,
partner and I vibe match.
I think that you guys really vibe match. This is
Yeah.
a thing that I have observed about you. So, very important. And we will add that to the critical three things. Or maybe that is what a vibe match is, like matching in values as well, which was not listed in those top three things. But interestingly, in this study, even when he does a different version of it, where instead of asking them questions about what your values are about those kind of divisive, fiery topics, he also does one where you estimate how many blue dots are on a page. And then you're presented with somebody who is either like estimated them to be way higher or way lower than you or similar, and, the people who were self-essentialist people were, like, bothered by and less interested in knowing somebody who estimated the number of dots on the page differently.
That's interesting.
I do feel like that is probably a little bit me, though.
I was like, "What a
I'm like,
loser."
"Get out of here, dot overestimators. I have no need to be
You
friends with
suck at
you."
estimating dots. Yeah.
Which is like a sidebar, like, some of his commentary on it is that we do have a tendency, especially if we are self-essentialist people, to, like, surround ourselves by people that we really agree with and that maybe aren't gonna challenge you on certain things, and so I think while maybe we're not going to be entering our mismatch relationships and, like, marrying guys who voted for Trump, that maybe we could, like, expand our friend groups a little bit or look if you are like kind of creating a bubble for yourself of surrounding yourself with people who are not challenging you on anything from like major issues down to the number of dots on the page. And so I was like, kind of an interesting research piece there.
Hmm. I'll consider it.
But not as relevant for your aura match. Now, let's get into the physical stuff. So, yeah, like obviously there was a million pickup artist kind of videos. What I did find, a couple different searches really pointed me to this TED Ed talk, that was sort of a summary of research by somebody named Don Masler. And I was like, it's on TED Ed. I mean, it's not peer-reviewed studies, but I thought that they had some sort of threshold,
Vetting? Yeah.
yeah, vetting process for how you get to be on there. So I was like, I'll just watch this 5-minute video that boils down the key components of physical attractiveness, like related to evolutionary biology and our body chemistry and things like that. Um, it was raising my eyebrows a lot throughout the video. There was a lot of stuff that's like, men like women, things that indicate that women are like tiny and fertile and can have are youthful and can have lots of babies and have tiny bodies and high pitched voices. Women like men with deep voices who are big. And I'm like, okay, this just sounds like the setup for some smut.
Well, yeah, this is not a Jessica Kane novel,
Yeah, this
Dawn.
is supposed to be Science Dawn, not a Jessica Kane
Yeah.
novel. I do feel like having watched some videos of Dawn presenting on the local news that she would love the shit out of some Jessica Kane novels, but that's not a slight because I think that we all enjoy them in their appropriate context.
Yes. Maybe me.
Maybe, maybe just I read the one and I was like, I see
It's
what this is
sexy.
exists for. It does something. I mean, if you don't think about it too
It's
much,
a porn video as a book.
it's
You
just
can't think
porn
about
books.
the
Yeah,
ethics
totally.
or anything. I'm not reading for the plot.
But there's a lot of things in porn that if I think about it kind of hard, I'm like, I don't like this for
Well,
my life
and
personally.
that's why I like reading it more than watching it. Because lately I've gotten myself too much into, like, does she actually like that? Like, is she being taken advantage of? So I don't know. It's gotten too in
Yeah,
my
there's a lot
mind
of
and it
ethics
ruins the
with the porn
experience.
stuff. And also, however they are imagining attractive people or just who's available for casting does not oftentimes match up with what I find attractive. Or like I'll be really distracted by their outfits because there was one that was like, the girl is like getting like the guy fucks his boss. I think I talked about this one in a previous episode, but it was like she looked like she got her professional wear from Wet Seal, and I was just really distracted by it. She is obviously a terrible boss. She has no proper standards for workplace attire, and you could be sexy and still be dressed professional and like a boss, but it's not at Wet Seal.
Yeah. So one time a guy had a marijuana leaf shaved into his pubes. And I was like, how am I supposed to stay turned on when I'm sitting here wondering about how you shave that
I have
marijuana with
way too
your
much
pubes?
ADHD to not be, like, distracted by just, like, the lighting and, like, the weird furnishings in the Airbnbs that they get in the Eastern European Airbnb where they're filming this, and I'm just like, "Why is your room set up?" Or what was our favorite, Clover, Baltimore?
Oh my
I'm just way too
gosh.
distracted trying
The
to figure out,
inflatable hot tub.
but also I'm trying to figure out where in Baltimore she is. I'm very distracted by this, so when they're outside in the inflatable hot tub, I am just super distracted trying to come up
It's
with key
definitely
landmarks.
Dundalk. We don't have to think too hard.
Anyway, so Dawn. So I started looking into her because I got very distracted in this video by like, who is this person and what are her credentials? She's not a doctor. She does have a master's of science. Good for her. Definitely gives off Florida woman vibes. She seems a little chaotic. She has published a book called Sorry, I can't. Her book is called Men Chase, Women Choose: The Science of Meeting, Dating, Losing Your Mind, and Finding Love. Which from the title alone I hate and I refuse to read it, and I feel like I know everything I need to know about Dawn
Did you
Massler.
hear that, Dawn?
Did you hear that, Dawn? Are you even listening to
Yeah,
our podcast?
probably not.
Yeah, so from her speaker bio, her background is after experiencing her attraction to the wrong men, she began an intensive study into the science of love. Her groundbreaking findings include the four phases of love are destined to become the new standard. And based on this, she got a TED Ed video, which has over 1 million views, is what it says in her speaker bio. But I'm like, my toddler watches videos of people popping balloons with paint in them that have way more than 1 million views. So, like,
Oh my
that's not even
gosh.
good, Dawn. But it did, I mean, it does come up first when you search. So, yeah. I then look into her more. This was a rabbit hole. I did get distracted, but I feel we need to
I do
know.
need to go back to the popping balloons thing because that's actually troublesome. I just the noise, but
Oh, well, they, like, run a car over them, so, yeah, it's, like, super troubling that's if you let him be on YouTube, that's what he finds, which is why you should not let your four-year-old go on YouTube unsupervised. But that's a separate podcast about parenting, which we are not qualified to do.
no, by no means am I qualified.
So, Dawn, did a video on local news, and she was giving it was so, like, morning local news show. She was giving tips about the science of Valentine's Day gifts. So, first she says men are more attracted to women who wear red and will spend more money on you. No sources cited. But then she says women are attracted to a man in red. So I'm like, so
Who
people
will also spend money on
just
you.
like red? Yeah, and maybe the woman will spend more money on you?
Red means stop, green means go. I learned that from a Judy Blume book when I was like 10.
Well, I also learned about the red room from 50 Shades of Grey, so very confused here. So she says for the men, though, to frame yourself in red or stand by a red sports car, because I guess it might be kind of gay if they wore red. Because I was just like, look, Dawn, if this science checks out, then the man should just show up in like a red three-piece suit, head to toe, which I do feel like is a thing that Mystery would do.
Which I might be interested in.
All right, Mr. K, just another tip for you next time you want to seduce your wife.
Just show up in
Just
a three-piece
try
pet suit.
try a
Just
three-piece red suit with maybe a little red top hat. Second tip, she
I don't think
says,
red's his color.
well, for that, we would have
Kidding.
to do a separate, color reading for him to find out his color season, which I haven't done yet. Um, so she also says if you're, like, in an early stages of a relationship and you wanna declare your love for somebody, but you're, like, afraid to do it, to eat a sweet because or give them candy, because if they eat the candy, they're viewing you as sweeter and you're more likely to initiate a relationship with them. But it only works if you're both in love.
So just bring some Twizzlers.
I was like, sources needed, but then she's like, that only works if you're not already in a relationship. And then you should have chocolates if you're in a relationship and you want to make it sexy because chocolates increase dopamine. But then she clarifies that you don't even have to eat it because I'm sure she also is trapped in some like skinny bitch mentality where she's like, you couldn't actually eat the chocolate because that would make you fat. And then she gives you a dopamine hit. But I'm like,
This might be the worst advice I've ever
dopamine is just
heard.
good. I'm just gonna sit in my room alone eating chocolate and enjoying my dopamine hits on my own, I guess.
I'm just gonna squeeze chocolate between my boobs and and hope it gives Mr.
Well,
K a
he does just
dopamine
need it
rush.
on his tongue. He doesn't need to eat it. So I also don't know. We're gonna get into pheromones and the sense of
Yeah, I'm ready to
smell.
give him that dopamine rush.
If just the scent of chocolate on your titties alone is enough to give that dopamine rush. All right. So she does divide things into the five senses of attraction. So, like the different way that your five senses play a role in physical attraction. I have kept our outline organized as that. So let's start with sight. So she does say that visual beauty standards vary by cultures and over time, but there are common beauty standards that are associated with youth, fertility, and good health. So, like long, luscious hair, smooth, unblemished skin are associated with that. And obviously, like a lot of that plays into evolutionary biology. My first question was, how do you explain gay people. And it turns out that evolutionary biologists have thought about this.
Ooh,
They call it the
look at them.
LGBTQ paradox, which is basically if the whole point of attraction is because we want to find a mate or mates that we can have children with and prolong our species and our own genetic material, then why would you be attracted to somebody that you know for a fact you can't reproduce with? So first of all, I mean, I have questions about that even for hetero people. Like, there are a lot of cases where people are, like, attracted to somebody that they know couldn't or wouldn't have kids with them, and also we live in an age of contraceptives where it's not like you're just going around impregnating people. Um, a Redditor posted this really well. They were like, "Hey guys, what if actually we just wanna have sex more than we wanna have babies?" And I was like, pretty much
Yeah, that
that boils it
seems
down.
right, but also, the things that they describe, like smooth skin, like, doesn't that just look good regardless? I don't know, if torn up, wrinkly skin was a sign of youth, I think that people would still be more attractive to smooth skin.
It's hard to say.
Okay,
How do you break it
okay,
free from those
fair.
things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's hard to say. Okay.
So, yeah, it's like, shouldn't evolutionary biology just talk about, like, why we have evolved to just enjoy sex and pleasure? So some evolutionary biologists resolve the paradox by saying that mating behaviors originated before like the differentiation of sexes in species. And so there may have just been like a greater benefit than cost to just indiscriminate mating behaviors. And they have used that as maybe an explanation for why we see indiscriminate mating or like gay animals across like thousands of species. And that came from a Nature Ecology and Evolution study. There was a separate, Scientific American piece that was exploring 3 lesbian capuchin monkeys in a
Were
Los
they in a
Angeles
threesome or a
sanctuary.
polycule or, like, are they all together? Or they're the
We
love
need
triangle?
we need to we'll pull
Okay,
this up.
sorry.
No, we need to know. It says but I just liked their conclusion that says, "It's clear being a little gay and nearly every day helps primates get their way in pleasure and in life."
Oh, look at that, that's very sweet.
Hold on, now
But that's not a little gay, they're described as lesbians, not bisexual.
it's a lesbian monkey love triangle with Bailey, Haley, and Macy, who live at a wildlife sanctuary in LA. Of course, the lesbian monkeys are in LA. So they frequently engage in same sex courtship, grooming, and mounting for pleasure to strengthen their social
Oh,
bonds.
that's nice.
So they said in capuchin monkey culture, these intense female female alliances are the backbone of their communities. So they're integrated into social and romantic networks with other females to survive longer. And those who are in like female female social networks that include some of this sexy erotic stuff. We got erotic monkeys this week after the erotic fruit bats. And that includes like genital touching and elaborate courting. And that's just like part of their strong female bond so that they're part of this strong girl gang that can protect them against outside threats.
Well, that's kinda beautiful, so they're a strong lesbian girl gang
Yeah. They're just like a lesbian polycule that is just like protecting each other against the horrors of the world.
in a Los Angeles sanctuary. Wonderful.
Only in LA, baby.
Now that I see what's coming next, I can't, I'm just eager to get
Well, I think, yeah, anyway, so that about sums it up. That was another rabbit hole that I got in, but I was like basically very distracted by all the evolutionary biology stuff because I was just like, if I look around me at real couples that I know, obviously, if you have those evolutionary drives to prolong your species, like I know. I have friends that got a tubal ligation or like men that have had vasectomies very young in their childbearing years who are just like, I absolutely know that I don't want to have kids. So I'm like, how are they primarily motivated by evolutionary biology factors if they have, like, decided in their 20s that they already know that they don't wanna have kids, like, I just don't.
Yeah, it would make sense that the drive is more to have sex versus to reproduce in specific.
Yeah, exactly, I see humans doing a lot of pleasure-seeking behavior, I don't see that many people I know in my, like, modern life, even if they have some kind of evolutionary drive to procreate, it's not primary in their decision-making, it seems to me, unless you're reading breeder kink stuff, and then I feel like it's really coming into play, which would make sense why then they have this attraction to the younger women because they are really being driven by their evolutionary need to breed a bunch of young, fertile ladies. Which brings us to My next question about this evolutionary biology thing, because it always is like, oh, there's like attraction to things that are associated with youthfulness. And I'm like, yeah, I actually feel like that's where a lot of problematic shit in our culture comes from. And we should challenge this a bit because obviously in history, we were trying to marry off the most like fertile women and have them have lots of heirs for whatever purposes. And we are trying not to have 15-year-olds get married and pregnant now, even if from a biological perspective, your top childbearing years are age 16. So when a lot of the Epstein files stuff was coming out, there were several people who were associated with defining what was the standard for fashion and attractiveness and what women should.
Les Wexner,
Yes, exactly.
Abercrombie, and Victoria's Secret.
Yeah, so and if you remember Abercrombie of that era, it was this sexy teen aesthetic, and there was kind of this connection with, like, men, sexualizing and, like, being very focused with things that were associated with women looking, like, incredibly youthful, but incredibly sexy. And then there's Epstein and Trump's connection to the modeling industry and beauty pageants and all of those beauty standards that were created all throughout like millennial youth and childhoods that are now tied back to people who are in the Epstein files, who have known connections to pedophilia. It really makes me question this
Well,
whole thing about, oh, we are so like attracted to youth because it's associated with fertility.
and we're over here sexualizing daddies.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
with
is that
women
because
writing
like
age gap romances for women.
well, right, but is that because we're, like, socially more like, "Oh, those men could still technically be daddies in the biological sense of the term?" But, I mean, like,
No,
looking at your
I
Jessica Kane
think
books,
yeah,
that they're, like, breeding, but it's like a 52-year-old man breeding a 19-year-old girl, like,
and
it's
you read
kinda
one of
tied
the
up in all
lighter
that.
age gap ones. I think yeah, I think
Ew.
that it's like the
Rant zaddy.
I think it's like what I think it gets to, like, the benefits and the trade-offs that you were talking about. Some women want the guy who's in control, who knows what he's doing, who has
Mhm.
experience, who knows how to treat a woman, who has financial security or at least, like, has their shit together, and that's associated with a daddy.
Yeah.
I don't know. But again, these are books. Books are fantasies. You're not gonna go, creeping for a 50-year-old man on your weekend. Well, I guess we
only
are
at a
now.
sex club,
Yeah, I
to
only wanna see a 70-year-old man with a beer belly at my sex
only at a
clubs.
nude beach,
Yeah. I wanna see him with a black mask and a black thong trying to do something kinky with me, and then I'll really be turned on. Uh,
Exactly. That's what we're looking for. Conclusion.
yes.
Okay, so the next category is smell. This one actually did have some interesting research associated with it, though slightly creepy. I have questions about the researchers who chose to make this their particular field of study. So one, they do this study with women who are at different points in their menstrual cycle, three different points in their menstrual cycle, wear a shirt for 3 nights. I read the study to get more details about it because Dawn mentions it. In this, they actually, like, cut out the, like, armpits and the back and the chest of the shirt for different smell experiences for the men.
Huh.
And the men are randomly assigned to smell a worn-out shirt or a new shirt, and then, as the control group is, like, a brand new shirt, that doesn't have your pheromones on it, and then they, test their testosterone in saliva samples afterwards and show increased T in men who smelled the shirt of an ovulating woman. Um, First of all, scale of 1 to 10, how creepy do you find the minds of the researchers who designed this study?
Oh, well, I'm weird, so, like, not creepy at all.
Oh, okay. I do
Because
feel
I
like
feel like that's always been a thing. Don't you always feel like you're, like when, like, you're ovulating, the guy can tell? But not anymore because 'cause I'm, like,
I don't
birth
know, I've had an
control,
IUD for so long that I feel like that's missing from my life, and also, I wanted to know if, like, any of this can be used to reverse engineer men not creeping on you, like, should we all have IUDs so that we don't ever
well
ovulate and men can't, like,
So
pick up on
I
our pheromones?
thought that in the reverse, it also makes it that your body's basically sending no-go signals when you're on your period. I wonder, like, how much it actually would change a man's behavior around a woman, like, let's say at a bar or on a date, if a first date, if a woman were ovulating versus not, and my guess is
Mm.
that the smell would have to be so close to you that it already is something that more, like, partners can recognize than first date or a bar
I have
person.
distinctly been hit on while on my period, and, like, not that the person knew,
Well,
so it's
that's
not to
because
do
you
with, like,
have
whether or
your
not they
long
have a period
hair. It's
kink.
your youth.
I have luscious hair and other
Yes.
youthful features, so I
They
guess
basically just saw you as a 16-year-old.
they outweigh
Yeah.
my stay away signals, or maybe their, simple primate brains told them that if you hit on this person, maybe they will still be here in 2 weeks when they're ovulating.
Yeah, or we can just go to an ovulating 16-year-old. Take her shirts when we wanna be hit on. I don't know. Just some thoughts for you to
That sounds totally normal.
percolate.
I do feel like I am not surprised that this study came from the minds of 2 Japanese men because when I looked it up, I was like, "I don't know, somehow that seems right." Um, so then the other one so then she talks about women being attuned to, your MHC molecules, which are related to your immune system, and it is something that they test for organ donation compatibility and other kinds of compatibility, but, basically, there's research that shows that we are attracted to people who have complementary or opposite MHC molecules. Which the really messed up part in Dawn's TED Ed video is that she said women are attuned to MHC compatibility. But when I went up, looked the research on this, people broadly are attracted to this. This is something that researchers have looked into, and it's not things specific to women. But I guess she felt like she had to give something complimentary to like men sniffing women's panties when they're ovulating and whatnot. Um,
So we got the MHC.
yeah, they found other species that also can sense MHC compatibility, which is like not even other primates. It's like fish, lizards, well, lemurs, mandrills have been shown to demonstrate preference for a partner with MHC differences. So, more research
Interesting.
needed as part of our broad aura research. All right, so sound. I hated this whole section in hers because the only thing that she could think of to fill this category and fit her five senses pattern was like men prefer high pitched voices associated with smaller bodies. Women prefer low pitched voices that suggest large bodies. Again, just sounds like a Jessica Kane intro. Sources needed. And this is again where I was like, well, like, let's do some more research about what is attractive to people who are, for example, in same sex relationships. My note here was just, what about the twinks? Because I was like, there, obviously, a lot of men are attracted to twinks. Well, I guess that would make sense because she's saying that men are attracted. But anyway,
Yeah.
a lot of
I
twinks are
see. I felt like, "Oh, okay."
attracted to the daddies. So, I don't know. But anyway, none of this stuff works if you're talking about, people who, vary at all from the norm. And, like, it does just kind of play into this, reinforcing the myth that gender or that queer people are deviant from, like, some kind of, like, acceptable norm. So I read an article in Sex Roles, um, called Fairy Tales Attraction and Stereotypes in Same Gender Relationships that explores what people in same sex relationships attracted them. And it's like a smaller study, 120 people, I think. It's based on a survey with open and closed questions. But I will say that, like, of all of the different stuff that I found on the internet, this honestly sounded more accurate to what straight people like than like anything that Dawn talks about. So the top things that people rate, they have like sort of a finite list of 21 things, and then they also provide some open-ended answers. Fun, sense of humor, and intelligent are the qualities that were rated highly by both men and women. And closely followed by kind, supportive, and considerate. Then the potential attractive qualities that they rated lowest are possessing or having the potential to possess a nice house. That one's lowest, and for both men and women.
That's
Um,
a lie.
I do feel like,
There
I
was, like, some self-reporting bias right there.
this is true. This is people's self-reporting bias, and they do mention that. Also, those of us who have read Pride and Prejudice know that Elizabeth Bennet isn't really that interested in Mr. Darcy until she sees Pemberley. So
Yeah, then all of a sudden she sees the big house and she's
all of
like,
a
"Oh, I
sudden, she's,
understand
like, willing
you."
to overlook some of his worst traits. So other low-ranked traits include financial security, success, and ambitiousness.
Yeah, also in Little Women with Meg's speech about how, "Don't tell me that marriage isn't financial proposition." Go on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do agree that we need something that is not based on, like, personal self-reporting bias,
Versus
um,
what people actually choose. Yeah.
but I do think, like, something that was thoughtful about this is that it's, like, for how much that people are like they had some things in here too about like, oh, queer people are so much more highly sex energy and need to have sex all the time and stuff, and they could bunk that too, and what the core sexual nature of your relationship is for people who are in partnered relationships. So I thought that that was just kind of affirming of the fact that at least across the spectrum, we all would like to think that we are choosing our partners based on like their kindness and their nice personality. Even if indications give us some idea that it might not be that for both LGBT and straight people. On the touch one, she mentions one study. I looked this up. It was from Yale. And it was basically, like, about people's perceptions about warmth or cold and personality and the tie between that and warmth or cold sensations. So they have people either hold a coffee and it's hot or iced before, they think that the study has begun. Then they're asked to read about this hypothetical person and they're told to rate their personality. So if you hold the hot coffee, you perceive this same person as happier, better natured, more social. And if you held the iced coffee, you perceive the person as colder or more stoic, which I feel like is a real concern for those of us who just really enjoy iced coffee.
Yeah, well, on the positive side, it was probably a shittily done study.
I really feel like it
A
had to
story about a
be.
hypothetical person.
Yeah, and again, this is like about hypothetical people, so I don't know how this actually plays out to how you do things in real life. And I have questions for Yale and like funding of this
Yeah.
research.
Also, like, if you're in, like, a if it's, like, a hot, warm, sunny day and you're holding an iced coffee, you're probably gonna perceive that person warmly, but if it's done in, like, the New Haven winter, then, yeah, maybe you're, like,
We need to
in.
know more about the room that they were doing this in. This also raised questions for me about, being around people with sweaty palms because I feel like people who have sweaty palms
Yeah,
are
that's the
always
one.
warm when you touch them, and, I am married to somebody who doesn't have sweaty palms, but is just a furnace who is always hot all the time, and I will say in the, warmer months of the year, it really just makes me want to have a sleep divorce and go in another room because the air conditioning cannot keep up with the amount of heat that he's giving
Well,
off
you
of his
can have a
body.
sleep divorce. That's completely fine to do.
I also agree. Sometimes you just wanna sleep comfortably and, like, fully spread out in your bed. So the final bit was around taste, so that focuses on first kiss. I was trying to find what the research was when she said that the majority of people reported losing attraction to the other person if the first kiss was bad. I did find a Psychology Today study, that they just asked people a bunch of questions about your first kiss and, like, worst kiss. Do you wanna dive into this research about what makes it a bad kiss? Some of it is
Too
physical
much
things.
tongue, saliva,
Lack of
getting
spark or
forced.
passion, which I feel like could be related to a bunch of things. Quality of the kiss itself is 52%. Um,
I don't know. I've always just felt like when you're both passionate and into it, it all feels good. And if you're not passionate and into it, it feels really bad.
because it's like if you were already connected to that person and had known them well, for example, if you started dating somebody that you already knew as a friend or through work, I feel like it might be easier to overcome a first kiss than somebody that you just met on Hinge and you have had spent all of like a half hour talking to them. Like you're not very invested. So I feel like it's also easier to quit at that point.
Yes.
The author of that article said most individuals can recall at least 90% of the details of their first romantic kiss and typically very positively and in far more detail than they recall their first sexual intercourse.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Huh. I don't feel the same, but that's fine.
I feel like would recall them about equally. I don't know. Um, I did think that ties into in books, like apart from like very smutty, porny books, that for the most part, the first kiss between the characters is of much more plot importance than their first sexual encounter. And it's like this turning point in the plot where then they become romantically attached, is like when they first kiss. And there's a lot associated with that.
Yes. And kisses are always described weirdly, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
Okay. So to wrap up, we have some news on Ryan Atwood.
Yeah. So this is things from previous episodes. I was opening an email and it was types of industries that have the biggest influence in campaign financing and campaign donations. And they're like, it's not even close. It's cryptocurrency. And they're basically how crypto bros are ruining the world and destroying everything with
Wait,
their influence.
is Ryan Atwood a crypto bro?
No, opposite. He is the director and stars in a documentary called Everyone is Lying to You for Money, directed by Ben McKenzie. So he's like on a personal crusade to talk about how all the influence of
And
like
he's good.
crypto bros. Yeah. So I have pulled up the website trailer here that is flashing to scenes of him. And yeah, he's looking good. Ryan Atwood.
He
I knew
definitely
it
did
was
need the choker necklace
I
or
know, and
the
I know it was
leather.
hard to like move on and decide what to do with your life after Marissa's untimely death. So I'm really glad that he found meaning.
Yes. Okay, so next episode, we are digging into attraction in long-term relationships. How you keep it
Keeping the
going.
spark alive.
Yeah, after you see the guy standing by his red car, the red background.
Where does it go from
Yeah,
there?
where does it go? How do we keep that alive? Thank you for listening.